Hi. Again,
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here as part of Talk Podcast. It's our second episode, and yeah, I'm really happy to share this space with you. I would love to just introduce you from my own understanding and, perspective of you as a human being, as a fellow journeyer and space holder, and then I would love to invite you to introduce yourself in whatever way feels true to you. Um, so to me, I think Lilya is a really depthful space holder and human being whose work is really rooted in integrity, which to me is a very important value in Taqat as well. And I have always been in awe of how you are so gracious with your sharing around this theme of integrity in this work we do. And I think that you are a rare and special breed and a very beautiful human being. And it's just such an honor to have you here on this episode. And I think Lilia also really brings a narrative into this work of healing and growth around emotional adulthood that is so important. Um, I have also often spent time reflecting on my own inability to be more like an emotional adult when I have read your posts. That's how just deeply eye opening some of what you write can really be. So I am a fan of your powerful work. And yeah, this is my way of introducing you. And I would love to invite you to introduce yourself. Yeah.
Thanks, Hansika. I think you should come with me wherever I go and just do my introduction because you do it way better than I do. So thank you. I think it's nice to see oneself in someone else's eyes, and what the person sees of you or of me in this case, because obviously I've spent almost the last 40 years with myself. So to have someone from outside, this is how I see Lilya. And I was like, oh, it's not so far from what I am inside. So it's nice to see that what you're receiving from me doesn't feel very distant from who I am,
Mm.
and how I'm living my life. So that's a win for me. Um, I think the way you introduced me is really, you said it all. But if I had to just add a little bit of layer, I think, you were mentioning integrity and emotional adulthood. I think I really arrived at this place of what does it mean to be a capable adult? And what is emotional adulthood? And I came to that because of my own journey with emotional immaturity and um, witnessing around me the cost of emotional immaturity and how much it affects so many layers of the life that we have that we don't really realize. I think, yeah, I've been doing this rodeo consciously for the last 20 years. Maybe that's where the depth comes from. It comes from having to face myself over and over and over and over and over again over the last 20 years, and often really seeing things about myself that were difficult to see, difficult to acknowledge, to accept. There was a lot of shame around certain of those things. Um, so I think the depth comes from that, from me facing myself over and over and over the last 20 years. And I think the way I approach this work that we both do in our own way is to really be a space or a place for people where they can come up for air, and they can, in the space that we co-create together, they do not have to be anything else or anyone else than what they are and who they are in that moment.
Mm.
And from there, we journey together in whichever way life wants to take them. So yeah, that's what I would say as of right now, just on the back of what you said, introducing me. I think I'm a fellow human, first and foremost. I feel like I'm a very ordinary human. And I think I wish more people in this space that we share realize that they are very ordinary humans, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, and none of us, at least that's my perspective, and I only speak for myself. I feel that none of us have answers. None of us are inventing anything new. None of us, it's just, we're all just moving and recycling and expressing in our own ways, but all the raw material is already here. It's been here for a really long time. So I think humility is something that's missing a little bit in this space, but it's one that I try to practice. And when I forget, I remind myself to practice and remain humble.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing these things up. I think that I'm with you fully. Like, I feel that what being in rooted in integrity even means is to actually honor our humanness. Like, we are just human beings, and to be real about that as well, that there is nowhere we have arrived. That is not why we are doing this work. Like, I think when I first like stepped into this world in a more like official way, for the lack of a better word, because honestly, when I look back at my own journey, I think I have always been holding space and doing like workshops and sessions that actually centered around space holding and transformation without actually knowing that that's what I was doing at that time. But when I stepped into this work more officially as a space holder trained in modalities 3 years ago, I think that I pedestalized a lot of people. And then I had this huge like shake up where I was like, wait, but we're all just human beings first. Like, I need to stop pedestalizing people. Like, no one is better than anyone, and no one is more ahead than anyone. Like, that is the work of being a human. And actually, like, we're all humans first before we are space holders. And I think that is actually the beauty of this work too. And I wish that we were more real about this and more honest with ourselves and each other, and also our in the way we express our work too. Because yes, sometimes it feels like we're entering a space where this world of healing is turning into also a commodity to be sold. It's already happening actually. And there's nothing wrong with like selling places of transformation. I think you touched on this on one of your posts recently, and I also really resonated with that. But I think it's around like, who are you choosing to work with is such a, in where we are now in this space, it feels even more important than ever to actually recognize, is this person really also sharing themselves as just a human being rather than um having painted maybe this picture that they have arrived somewhere, because there's nowhere to arrive. So, yeah, I would love to like ask you if there was any point in these last 20 years where maybe you had a similar realization of like uh pedestalizing others. Like, I'm just curious if, I'm not alone in this feeling, because I kind of see it a lot and it comes up a lot in conversations with people. So I'm curious.
And I hear you, and I think it does happen a lot. Somewhere, I think I'm very lucky because I'm extremely critical. And by critical, I mean that if I, for example, I'm extremely selective of the people that I, Lilya, as an individual, do work with. There are
Mm,
very few people I will let touch me, guide me, uh, and for me to submit my authority, because my authority is mine, like yours, like everybody has authority on their own life, right? So for me to
mm,
submit my authority to you, I have to see something in you that I want and I do not have. And honestly, they're not people that I see. And this is just for me. It doesn't mean I'm better, whatever. Not at all. But for when I look, there's not many people where I'm like, you know what? I want to submit to your authority, and I want you to teach me. It has happened a few times in my life.
mm,
And eventually, what I understood is all of the people that I submitted to consciously, willingly, they somehow always brought me back to myself. They always reminded me that the center of my authority is within myself. It's not with them, right? So this is something that I also do very explicitly with the people that I work with. Anytime they try to defer power or authority to me, I'm like, no, that's yours. And I can't make decisions for you. I don't have authority on. I'm
mm,
here as a fellow journeyer, as a mirror, but you are responsible for your life. So I think I never really had this thing pedestal also, and this is a bit personal, but I think I'll tell you, I mean, when I tell you, I think you'll understand why. I was abused when I was a little girl,
mm,
and I was abused by a yoga. So
mm,
I think when you experience sexual abuse at the hands of someone who is supposed to represent spirituality, who is
mm,
supposed to represent consciousness, wisdom, all of the things that yoga represent, right? And yoga is beautiful.
mm,
I think I understood very young, intrinsically, because of that experience, that when you are in a position of power, and the power, you're only in that position because someone has given it to you, right? And I think that a genuine space holder knows that and never abuses that. But when someone gives their power to you to be with them in an extremely vulnerable moment, it is your responsibility to keep yourself in check to make sure you never abuse that power. And if you do, even slightly, even remotely, even a little bit, to work on that and to apologize, to take accountability. So
mm,
I don't have this thing of putting people on a pedestal. If anything, I'm more on the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm like, don't come near me. I don't know your, whatever your energy kundalini thing. Do not leave me alone. I don't want it. I'm gonna do my own thing. So I'm very discerning. I'm very difficult to convince. Um, and I only work with people, and this is my choice. And I'm actually going to write a post about, even doing plant medicine and stuff like that. I only work with people that I know have a lot of experience and who have been in training for a really long time. Um, because for example, when I started on this journey,
yeah.
um, I I never. Sorry, Hansika. I'm getting this thing of having low storage on my device. Is it still running for you?
It's still running for me, yes.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm just gonna let it be. If something happens, we'll figure
Figure
it
it
out.
out. Yeah. Hmm.
So when I started out, I was 16. I was at the bottom of the hole of this tremendous dark, and I did survive. So whatever I've learned, all the modalities that I've learned, all the training or all of the practices experimented with, they were all for me, right? I never envisioned, never thought, never, I mean, even planned to be who I am today and to do what I do today, right? And I think after 10 years of just me alone doing this work, my commitment in the dark, nobody seeing, no one to share it with. Uh, also at the time when I was 16, it was not as open and cool and popular as it is today to talk about trauma, healing, and all this stuff, right? So I was alone with a lot of it. And so I met a lot of fantastic masters who are masters of that time, sense that they were hidden. They didn't have a social media account. You had to find them through like some person who had gone to this weird guy who was doing some alternative therapy. Um, so it was a different time. And I learned from many elders in their own respective fields. And I think only after 10 years of me being in this journey, more than 10 years, I started journeying with other people. And it actually had just happened organically. I never planned it. People just were like, hey, do you do sessions? And I was like, oh, well, maybe now I do. Yeah. So, so my approach has just been a bit, I never went to a training and then became, except for my yoga training, which was 10 years ago. I never went from a training into then sharing that wisdom or creating an immersion or stuff like that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. Like, I am so sorry that you were abused by a yoga teacher. I think that, firstly, like, yeah, also just thank you for being so vocal about that here. And it means a lot that you shared that here. And because I feel that that is actually, unfortunately, so common. Like, I see why people maybe are feeling disenfranchised from spirituality and not wanting to like engage with it because of things like this. So, yeah, I feel like we need to talk about how this shit has happened, and move towards like a space where this shit is not happening, because such people are not leading, creating, and holding space anymore, because they are actually maybe trying to work through why they are doing such things in the first place anyway. And I think I feel like bringing in this piece around like connection to oneself as also a mirror to connection with Mother Earth. So I would love to ask you, like, when perhaps this is something that you really came into contact with, and what does that even mean to you? Like, living in more harmony with Mother Earth in these specific times of humanity where there is so much polarization, war.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what a crazy time to be alive, honestly. Like, it's infuriating on many levels. I will answer your question, but I think when you just talked about the polarization and, I can see I'm really tired of it. I'm really fed up. I was talking with a friend the other day and I was just like, I'm so done with these old white men who just don't want to give up their power because they're afraid. Like, I'm just done with them deciding how the fuck we are supposed to live or all the destruction. And I am over it. I'm like, enough, right? And it's not going to be enough for us to be outraged on social media. We have to really work on ourselves individually. Like, and that it will come back to this connection to earth. I'm just going to take another route, but 3 years ago, I can't believe it's already been 3 years. That in itself is maddening. 3 years ago when everything started to happen in Gaza, I remember sitting there completely like I had been hit with like a massive brick on my head. And I was like, how are we here? Was this COVID, whatever that was? And I don't want to get into the, whatever, but that COVID. how did that not wake us up? Like, how
Mhm.
is it that, I'm just, and the idea for me that there are children who are being dismembered, killed, dying of hunger, not only there, of course, unfortunately in other places. I was just like, enough. It is enough. We need to do the work. Like, we need to work on ourselves. We need to look at the root of our pain so that we can stop perpetrating it. We have to look at our own trauma, right? We live in a culture right now that is completely trauma driven. If you look at the way we're living in separation from everything, from ourselves, from each other, from nature, from spirit, it's like we're living as this little island, and we're in pain. We're all living in a trauma driven culture, and that needs to shift. That everybody needs to do their work. So for me, like, this connection to earth, it really reignited, I would say, when I did my ayahuasca ceremony. And I don't speak about it much because for me, I have many thoughts about, ayahuasca and what's going on in the medicine world right now, but I'll keep that to myself. But when I did ayahuasca, which is about maybe 10 years ago, again, I'm seeing this place and I'm like, okay, yoga was the cool thing. Now it's breath work that, then it was, and it still is a little bit breath work, but now it's nervous system regulation. And then it's going to be, I don't know, some other thing that everyone's going to, get onto. And I'm just like, guys, we're doing the same thing over and over. Can we just move on? Like, sorry, Lilya's being a bit grumpy today, but, I really reconnected with my sense of what it means to be Earth, because even if I think I'm connected to Earth, like, even that itself implies that it's separate and that somewhere I need to connect with it, but I am a part of it. There's this visual metaphor that I love, this idea that, all the raw material to create Hansika, to create Lilya, to create whoever the fuck is alive right now on this planet, and everything that is created here that we see in this tangible realm, all the raw material has been here forever, right? Like, I have been here forever because all the stuff that created me has always been here.
Mm.
So in a way, I am. And there are certain practices that you can do. I remember this one time where I was in a meditative practice, and it's a practice of listening within. And inside of me, I could hear
Hi, welcome back.
Hi.
Since I lost a part of your beautiful story, I would love to ask you, yeah, to continue that piece you were sharing around being in a meditative space and really feeling the essence of nature inside you.
Yeah. I think it was many years ago. I was in my 20s, probably, late 20s. And I remember I was with this teacher, and he was just taking me through this really deep inner listening practice. And I remember I was lying down on this couch, and he was guiding me. I don't remember the steps, honestly, but he was guiding me to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And so at some point, I don't know exactly when in that process, I think I was really deep somewhere inside, and I was hearing this gorgeous it was this, there were two sounds. I just remembered the other one. There was this gorgeous kind of like little bird chirping kind of sound, and there was this wave and ocean sound. And I was in the huge city, okay? So this is where I'm doing this meditation on this couch in a huge city. And I remember asking, I was like, is there a bird outside that's chirping? And my teacher was like, no, there's no bird right now. And I didn't believe it. And so he said, okay, well, just open your eyes. And I looked and there was nothing. As soon as I came out of that space, there was no noise, there was no birds around. So, my understanding from that experience is, and the whole practice that we did together was that, whatever is outside is inside, like all the raw material to create me has existed on this planet forever, right? No one went to Mars to get a piece of bone and to Jupiter to get a piece of hair or whatever. So everything that I'm made of, all the raw material to make me, has always been present on this planet in some form or the other throughout the last 100,000 million years, right? And so everything that's outside is also inside. So it was a really interesting experience. And I was like, wow, there's the sound of a bird inside of me. It's, how do you explain that logically? You have a moment where you're like, am I losing it? But I think it was one of the most beautiful experiences I had of actually being nature, right? Not necessarily being a part of nature, but I am nature, right?
Mm.
I if I say I am a part of it, then somewhere I'm also in my language separating myself from it. I am nature. Nature is me. There's no distinction. It's like I am my ancestors. I am my ancestors. Are like there's no distinction. So that was really interesting. I think also there was this one. I have a friend who lives in France in the Basque country, and he lives next to this gorgeous forest called La Forêt de Chiberta, and gorgeous, beautiful, massive tree people, really gorgeous tree people. And unfortunately, some human who probably wasn't thinking clearly thought it would be funny to light the forest on fire. And so that forest, a lot of it burned down. And when I went to that forest, which I had gone to multiple times before, it was maybe a couple of months or a year after the fire. And so you could see new life was coming, and it was starting to grow again, which, wow, how resilient is nature, by the way, which means how resilient we are as well. And I remember we were walking in the forest, and there was this majestic, gorgeous tree in front of me. And I told my friend, I'm a big tree hugger. And I told my friend, I said, listen, I don't know why, but I just need to be with this tree for a little bit. And so I went up to this tree very respectfully, said, hey, would it be okay for me to just be here with you and hug you? And obviously, the language of the tree is not like, yeah, it's okay, come, what's up, right? So I just felt like it was okay. And respectfully, I just hugged this tree, and I just spent a little bit of time there. And once I was done, I said thank you, paid my respect to the tree, and then I walked away. And within a few minutes of that, I felt overcome by something. And I remember we were walking, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the path, I just stopped and I bent like forward a little bit, and I just started howling. Like I was just sobbing, like really, really deep sadness. That's how it felt to me. And I was a bit confused by the experience because, I mean, yeah, we were having deep conversations with my friend, but it wasn't like, you know, consciously nothing was going on really that could explain logically why I was crying so much. And then it dawned on me, and is it true or not, I don't know, and it's irrelevant for me at this point, but what I felt was that what I was crying, what I was feeling, was the grief of the forest, right? And maybe the grief of this tree who probably lost brothers, sisters in this fire, right? Probably saw tree people that it had built a relationship with over so many years just die all of a sudden, right? And so I really thought that, okay, I was helping the tree process the grief. That's how I experienced it. So those are there are many more stories, but we'd be here for 2 hours. So those are the small few instances that I really felt like there's so many things that we are that we don't logically understand and that we have been severed from and disconnected from, but actually everything is there and everything is interconnected. And can you imagine how amazing, sorry, this is just coming to me, like, imagine if, okay, this tree burned, all these trees burned down, and imagine if as like humans we went to the tree people and we sat there in their grief, and we together we formed a circle and we would just all grieve together. Oh wow, I wish I had that idea back then, you know? But that's
Mm.
just so, why not actually? Why wouldn't we
Yeah.
come together with the tree people and grieve the loss of one of theirs, which is also one of ours? And we,
Mm.
so yeah, so those are some of the instances of, you know, developing and understanding the deeper relationship that I have to my own human nature, which is nature basically. Um, and so maybe you could tell me also, I'd be curious to know, what about your relationship with nature?
Before I answer that, I just want to, you know, yeah, really um honor what you shared around like this frustration that like these immature, like old white men who are unable to sit with the depth of their pain are like creating this horrible way of experiencing life for so many people that yeah, it's just so freaking horrible and selfish. And actually, yeah, I wish that, you know, more and more people kind of wake up to this knowing that doing inner work is not selfish, but it's actually selfless. And not doing inner work and not sitting with your pain and not confronting your emotional turbulence and all of that is actually what is causing more destruction on this earth and to our planet. So, yeah. And all the war we are living to is almost just a mirror to all of this, you know, like where we are at with ourselves. It is just a mirror to that for sure. Mm, I think that my connection with Mother Earth has always been present since when I was a kid, like, but I also only kind of realized that last year because last year that realized the fact that it's been present since I was a kid because last year I found this poem I wrote when I was maybe 12 or 13, possibly 12, around like the theme and topic of Mother Earth and Mother Nature, and it kind of reminded me how in school, when I was in school, I'm a 1994 born girly, so when I was in school, our books actually had a lot of information already on like pollution and what's happening, you know, to the world in terms of like our ecological crisis, which at that time was a lot around like, you know, there was so much literature around the importance of reuse, recycle, all of that. And yeah, I remember reading all of that in school in like geography class and science class and feeling sad that like we were destroying Mother Earth. And so I think that I started writing a lot about this topic when we were given assignments in like English class or whatever. I've always written, like poetry and writing is something that I've been doing since I was a kid. So I think somewhere there's been this awareness inside me that I didn't even realize has been there for so long, that how can we be destroying Mother Earth this way? Like something in me already felt like there we are part of her. Um, but I think as a feeling in my body, it became really strong over the last like 10 years. I think when I moved to the UK and started living on my own for the first time. I didn't actually grow up in a home where like my family liked spending time in nature. That wasn't something they did. Like, I grew up in a city in Indonesia, and then we lived in China for some time. And actually, in China is when I started to spend more time in nature too. But it was like it's not like my mom or dad were ever like, let's go to a park and just like sit in the park today. They weren't like that. But I became like that when I moved to London. I realized I used to enjoy just sitting on grass, sitting by the tree, and I could sit there for hours with my thoughts, with myself, sometimes with a book, sometimes without a book. And in those moments of time, I felt like I was one with her. And but still, even then, like, I think that this was just something I felt without giving it so much weightage. I think that weightage also really became strong in my body in recent years, like probably when I moved to Goa. Like, when I moved to Goa, I think I started to experience what it means when I say that we are not separate from Mother Earth, like, as a feeling inside me that, like, I am her and she is me, and like there is no separation between our individual souls and this collective soul energy of her. And I started to feel that a lot in Goa through, I think, so many different things. Just actually for the first time in my life, living in a place where I was surrounded by nature, spending more time in nature consciously, not being in survival mode anymore, being more connected to my own body and the experience of my body. All of these things, I think, really brought alive inside me this deep reverence for Earth in a way that, like, younger me always felt, but didn't understand fully. Suddenly, it feels like now I see it as a really important part of my work. That's why I think I also, not I think, I know I started Taqat, because I think that it's not something that we are living in so much awareness with in this world. We are abusing Mother Earth more than living in this deep reverence to her. So, yeah. And I'd love for you to share, yeah, your sentiments, your thoughts on AI and nature. Yeah.
Ugh, that's really a tough one right now, one that I'm reckoning with inside of me, one that I have to be honest about. I am not in integrity with right now, and that's really difficult for me because I'm someone who has built myself really around integrity. And integrity is super important for me. And being in integrity with my values and what I put out in the world and how I live my life, for me, I want it to be congruent. I don't want any space between who I am and what I do, right? Or how I show up. And AI, I think, is really something that we are reckoning with as a people. I mean, I the way I look at it is we brought this upon ourselves, in the sense that, again, we've created now this thing, or we've participated in the creation of this thing that we don't really have an understanding of, and we don't really know how it's going to develop. And my understanding of it, which is very limited, I am by no means an expert, is that it requires a lot of resources, a lot of natural resources. And my understanding is also that, those natural resources, mainly water, are used to cool the data centers, because the data centers required for AI produce a lot of heat. And again, I'm not an expert, so if the words and the is not exact, this is what I know for now. So it's also interesting because there's so many other ways that you can cool data centers, apparently, from the research that I've done a little bit here and there. And so, but what is the cheapest resource? Water, right? And so there are even conversations around, well, maybe now you hear all these, Bezos and these guys, which, bless them, I really wish them well, but I'm really somewhere entirely I'm not resonating with them or what the way they're thinking, is that we need to think of water as primarily an AI resource now, right? And humans, well, maybe we won't give them as much water anymore. When I hear discourses like that, I just sit within myself and I'm like, what is going on? How far are we going to go into our own demise, right? How far are we going to go into our own ego to understand that we can't live without the resources that we are made of. We are made of water, right? And so if all the water bodies are dried up or polluted or misused, right? Like all the water, like the water inside of me is dried up and polluted and misused. So what I'm seeing also is, in the wellness space, whatever that really means, okay, or the work that you and I are doing, I feel there is a certain moral responsibility. That's my perspective. I feel that when we are in a space of consciousness or awakening consciousness, developing consciousness, embodying consciousness, talking so much about earth and respecting earth and being connected to earth and all of the things that we all in our own ways talk about and believe in a certain way, then this is something we really need to look at. Because if I look at social media today, I can 99.9% of the space holders, facilitators, guides, mentors, whatever you want to call them, shamans even, right, are using AI for their visuals, for their content, for everything, right? And it's super challenging because when AI started to become what it is becoming and developing, I remember sitting there thinking, never. Me on my high horse, I was like, never, I'm never going to use AI. Fuck these people. And what are we doing? And and here I am using AI, right? Why am I using AI? I don't agree with what it is. I don't agree with the resources that it needs and what it's already putting more pressure on resources that are already under pressure, especially when you live in a country like India, where so many places don't have accessible, clean water, right? I am in a place where I am a solopreneur. I don't have a gazillion people team. I don't have any support. So everything that I'm doing in my work, everything that I'm putting out there in the world, I'm doing, right? From holding space to creating content to creating journeys through group works or whatever, podcast, this, that. So obviously I'm human and I'm limited in many ways. So AI gives me a very financially accessible solution to get all those little menial tasks done, which is what I use it for. I use it to help me get the things done faster, quicker. So instead of spending 20 hours, I'm spending 5 hours on something. So I can spend more time on my zone of genius, which is being with people doing the work. So if someone like me, who has a high regard for integrity, can be so easily corrupted by AI, then nobody is exempt, right? And I can see in the wellness space that there is a dissonance between what we're saying, what we're teaching, what we're promoting, and what we're doing. And I think that's going to be a really big reckoning for us and our integrity and what we want to stand for. And are we okay to, well, in this case, miss out on things, move slower, maybe make less money because we will have less output or I don't know, right? This is just me thinking out loud, but it is a reckoning for me personally where I can see, and I can already see what's interesting also is I think it's starting to already change in a very short time, because my thing is to observe patterns. So the first thing I noticed, social media, everybody's now carousels are looking the same because they're all AI generated, right? all the captions are looking the same, because not because, but because, not because, but because, and all this dramatic like sequencing, and everybody's language is starting to look the same, which means that our individual expression is disappearing. We're all sounding the same. I cannot see by reading content, whether it's Hansika, Lilya, someone else, it could be, you see what I'm saying? Like there's no more individual personality and expression. It's just this one unified AI personality that we're all kind of talking through. So all the language is disappearing, and we're starting to talk in a way, if you look at the AI language and how it's writing, it's always writing in polarization, in opposition. It's writing in making fake momentum. You're like, what momentum? Like, why are we building all this momentum? Where are we going? So it's really interesting because it's changing how we're speaking, expressing. It's basically gentrifying language, right? There is no more diversity of language. Everybody is sounding the same. And so it is eventually going to change the way we think, right? So that is huge. Are we okay to let, and I call it a machine, I don't know what it is, but for me it's a machine. Are we okay to let a machine decide how we are going to express ourselves when we already live in a world where most of us are not self-expressed and we don't even know who the fuck we are? Now we're giving even more authority outside of ourselves, and we're going to disappear completely individually. Like there will be no more individual expression. So that's also what I'm observing. And I'm observing that it is so easy to make it a part of your life. Like Instagram, like everything that was built to be addictive, right? It's so brilliantly designed that it is so easy to now just, it's part of your life, right? People don't even look for recipes anymore on Google. They go to ChatGPT, give me the recipes for all of this week because I don't want to think. So we're not thinking anymore. And if we don't use our mind to think, then what are we using our mind for? Because the whole premise was AI will help us be more creative. But is it really? I mean, if we're deferring our authority to this machine and everybody's creative expression is starting to look the same, right? So I think as people in this space, to come back to us, and because it's a vast topic, and as I said, I'm not an expert, I think for me, it's a personal reckoning. I'm struggling with it. I'm trying not to be hard with myself, and I'm trying to let myself be human, which also means fucking up and doing things I'm not proud of, and also making the most of the resources that I have. I'm under-resourced. If I had more human resources, I would not use AI, right? And I would not want the human resources that I have to use AI. I would want us to use our human resources and our creativity to do the things. But because I am under-resourced externally, I'm using AI. And it's a really difficult thing to reconcile within me, because I feel like if I'm using AI to put out the work that I'm doing, which I feel is work that is of service, but I'm being of service by harming the very host, the very mother, the very place that I am a part of, that I am. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, then what am I doing? Like, so that's what I'm reckoning with. I can't speak for anybody else. I can't tell anyone what to do. But I think as a collective of practitioners, this is something we really need to look into. And also maybe figure out how we can support each other, because I think a lot of the people in this space are under-resourced, whether in terms of financial capital, whether in terms of, which also leads to then human resources, that are lacking, time that is lacking. So I think these are questions we need to ask ourselves, and we need to look into the mirror. And I'm not sure we're going to like what we see, but I think it's important that we do it, and that we not lie to ourselves or live in dishonesty. It's really hard for me to sit here and be honest with you and with myself about how I'm living and working right now, because I feel out of integrity with my heart, and I can see I'm getting emotional about it. But I don't know a better way right now. And so it's been challenging for me, and I'm really trying to give myself grace. To be okay with the fact that I'm doing something that somewhere I don't agree with and I don't believe in. And I'm doing it because it helps me to do something that I do believe in. And to live in that, that gray spot, it's uncomfortable for me. It's really uncomfortable. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, really, witnessing you in this gray spot that I think many of us are in. I think even for me, like I didn't want to use like AI in the birthing of Taqat, but my website friend, he's one of my closest friends in life, he is also the website designer of Taqat. He's a huge AI person, and like, AI has supported the creation of this project, and what you have shared that you are feeling, I have felt that inside and sat with it so much myself. So I think, yeah, it is a very collective feeling. For those of us who really value integrity and value this work as not being separate from Earth. And AI has really put us in a difficult spot and position because we want to serve her and be in service to her, but AI is extracting from her. So, and we are using AI. So yeah, and we're also slowly moving to a world where it's becoming just so normalized. And even with the team of women who are supporting me with Taqat, like at some point I even said, like, I don't want to use AI in Taqat, and I don't want I don't want to use it myself, but I'm not also going to tell you that you shouldn't do it, like that's your, like, I'm not that kind of person either. I'm not going to be like, don't, like, that's not me. And everyone is actually free to choose for themselves. Like that's how I work and what I believe too. So I have seen that some of them still use it, and I have realized that there's something bigger here at play. Everything you're saying around time, around resource, around capacity, like it's like we were anyway living in a world where all of that was so true, and then somehow AI came and it became easier to get a lot of things done faster. And now everybody just wants to do that. So, yeah.
You were saying that obviously AI is like it's like an extraction mechanism, right? We're extracting. And I think a lot of the thinking behind the things that we're creating is coming from that same mindset that created the problem in the first place, which is all about taking and extracting and taking, right? And this is this inherent greed that is there within us that we all have. And I think every human has to reckon with that greed that we have inside of us, right? It is not external. I've not met one human who doesn't have it in some way, shape, or form so far, right? But I'm also, so it brings me to question, because you said, for example, that your AI has been used in Taqat, right? In birthing Taqat, which is so much about Mother Earth and a new earth and a new way of being and doing. And so the question that came to me when you mentioned that word, which I think is visually is such a powerful word, extraction, because you really understand what that, if you feel it in the body, it doesn't feel good, right? It's like someone's literally like taking stuff out of you and just harming you in a way. It brings a question for me, Lilya, as an individual of, can I build a new earth using somewhere in the foundation principles of extraction? right? And that's, I think, what's complicated, because we don't live in a black and white world. A lot of things are gray. And so I think that's also the discomfort that I'm feeling of being in this gray zone, right? Which is that, okay, well, I am contributing to this extracting force towards not only nature and humans also, which are used to, to basically make train AI, and they have to go through all this horrible content. Women and children, right, have to go through this horrible content. So I don't know all the mechanics behind it, but there's also a very real human cost beyond the resources. There's also an emotional, mental cost of it's a really, the way it's built is harmful and extractive. And so my question that I'm sitting with is, and I think it's the one I've been reckoning with for so many years, is how this is the system, right? And this is the system that exists, and in a way I am part of that system. Even as much as I try to extract myself from it and remove myself from it, I'm still part of it, right? And so it's like, how do I use this system, as imperfect as it is, to divest more and more from this system and create a system that I feel is more aligned and harmonious. But even the system I'm going to create is not going to be perfect, because I'm an imperfect human being, and I don't understand the laws of nature and the laws of nature and the laws of the universe. I don't know ever if what I'm creating is harmful or beneficial. And I don't think I can know that in the moment. I can only know 10, 20, 30 years down the line, right? Whether what I actually thought was beneficial is beneficial. So it's a really, I don't know, for me, it's these are really deep, almost philosophical questions and thoughts that I feel like are not there. There's no right or wrong or easy answer. It's hard. I find it hard.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. It is. And it feels like it's only going to get harder. Yeah.
That's it. I'm off, guys. I'm going to where's the furthest planet? Is it Neptune? Who wants to join me? Instead of creating new Earth, I think we should abandon this Taqat idea and new Earth, and we should just go to Neptune to figure out how to get the fuck out of here. No, I love being here, unfortunately, but yeah.